Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, everyone. No more politics. Sorry, we're done. In fact, let's just get on with the show because we got some stuff to do, and then I got to get out. I got to go. So, what do you think?
Wow.
Is
Get
anything
the
to talk
mallet.
about before?
Get the mallet. Ring the bell.
All right, ready? Here we go.
You didn't find the mallet. Oh well.
No, I haven't done the mallet yet.
Just go get a hammer out of the tool shed.
I know. I need something. I can do it. All right, ready? Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, October 10th, 2016.
No.
It's not. It's
Hey.
not. It's not October. Yeah, I'm back to my good old times. Wow, ominous sound. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, November 10th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world, as to speak. And a lot to talk about today. First, I'm going to start off with the Pelle Lindbergh article that Scoop penned on my blog. This is the 31st anniversary of the Pelle Lindbergh accident, where he took his life in a car accident. And as many of you probably know, Pelle Lindbergh was my favorite player of all time. So I just wanted to mention it briefly. The article is really amazing. Just have to check it out. And I wanted to tell the story that I think I've told before, but about this picture behind me here, which is really cool. And but if you haven't heard it before, the story of that was the game after Pelle Lindbergh died, and I was 17 at the time. He was 26, and he'd be 57 today, I guess. Yeah. This is his 31st anniversary. So it's his number 31. So that's why this anniversary we're bringing up. So the day after his he died in the car accident, the Flyers played the Edmonton Oilers at home in a game. And he was, Lindbergh had just gone through a Stanley Cup final with the Oilers the year before, was really, and at the time, there was a Bob Froese was their backup. He was hurt, so they had to go to Darren Jensen to play in that game. It was a very famous game, and Darren Jensen had his greatest moment, in his career as a goalie, and then went on to become the Hair Club for Men guy. And you would see him on infomercials, and you would see highlights of that game on the infomercial. And before that game, there was a big a big ceremony, like typically would have a funeral type situation. It was really sad. I mean, it was shocking. It was horrible. It was all happened very quickly. And so on the way to the game, I went with my mom, and as we were walking up, I'd come from school. I was, and I was running. We were racing. We got there. We pulled up. We wanted to get there in time for the ceremony. I'm walking through the parking lot of the Spectrum, and a guy comes up to me and says, "Hey," he sees I had a Pelle Lindbergh shirt on, which I should have brought over. I had a Pelle Lindbergh jersey on, which I had gotten really early. Like I think I was one of the first people to have a Pelle Lindbergh jersey. I'd seen him play in the beginning.
Doesn't shock me.
Yeah, I'd seen him play when he was the goalie for Team Sweden, and what in the 1980 Olympics, which a lot of people don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
That Miracle on Ice team, Pelle Lindbergh has a part in that, and on the movie Miracle, you actually see they've
There's also a nice thing with that. Can't remember the name of the show, but if they search on YouTube, there was a show that actually followed what Lindbergh did with the flag. He traded it.
Oh yeah.
That
was a big story, and
that was a big story, and they got to the bottom of it, sort of, and they did meet with his girlfriend, who's his widow, whatever. Did they ever get married? I don't remember. I don't think they got married.
I mean, that's a shame. I really feel bad. I think they did, but
did they? Either way, she was with him, and
Bill Meltzer wrote a book on Pelle Lindbergh, so he actually has a really great book out there.
But there is a whole thing about that after the Olympics and what happened to that original flag.
He had the flag that Jim Craig had, draped over. Jim Craig gave it to Pelle.
Allegedly, you got to watch the show.
Allegedly, yeah, and then
you'll find out more. I don't want to ruin it.
So, but Pelle's the goalie that you remember that Olympics started with the U.S. tying the game on it with their goalie pulled, and they got a tie. Lindbergh's the goalie that gets that's in goal for that on the long shot.
He's the only one that they could not beat.
Right. He's the only the Miracle on Ice team did not win that game. It's the only one that they didn't win. So anyway, to get back to my story, I'm walking through the parking lot, and the guy sees me with my Lindbergh jersey on, and says, "How you look like a really big Pelle Lindbergh fan?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's my favorite player. I'm really depressed." And he said, "Well, come with me. I got something to show you." and I'm with my mom, of course. So we're like a little bit hesitant, but we go with this guy to the back of his car, which is only a few. My car's just right over there. He opens the car, and pulls out this painting. He's like, I made this painting of Pelle Lindbergh. And it's just he's one of my favorite players too, but it's too sad for me to keep now. I just can't take it. But I wanted to give it to somebody who really loved Lindbergh, and I used to. So here, I mean, he gave me this painting in the parking lot, and it was crazy. So I went back to our car. We put it in our car. It was like rolled up, with the wooden things that you get in a canvas painting, and and it still hangs in my office. So it's kind of a crazy. That's like
awesome though. It's cool.
Yeah, was a really memorable moment for my mom and I, and was just very intense. So. And Pelle was a great goalie, obviously, and was beyond, Yeah,
I mean, he won a Vezina. I've got in my book, Philadelphia Flyers Images of Sports, the Flyers did give us some images, and we used the image of him with the Vezina because it's a cool image. I remember how good he was. I remember not liking him as a result because the Rangers have great success against him.
For sure.
Yeah, he was terrific.
Yeah, and so Scoop Cooper, who is basically the Philadelphia Flyers historian. He's been there since the very beginning, knows everything, and has pictures of all kinds of pictures and he wrote an article a couple years ago that he put on the site about Pelle, who was named Gump, and nickname was Gump. And, there was a lot of funny things about Lindbergh. I mean, he got lit up in the All-Star game. That's another thing. People remember Gretzky going crazy in an All-Star game. Lindbergh he lit up Lindbergh for like 5 goals, I think, in a half of a game or something like that. It was just crazy. But, so Pelle was really, something special. And Scoop wrote this incredible article. And it was posted in the regular part of Hockey Buzz, but I wanted to move it up to the top for today until, I have some rumors stuff coming later in the day, but I just really wanted to get it out there so everybody could read it, because Scoop had a really unique situation in that he was so close with all the team and knew the players on a different level. And you'll get stories in there. Like if you ever remember Scoop's story on Ray Shero was phenomenal. On Fred Shero, there's just great stories that he's written in there. His story on Gordie Howe, Scoop introduced me to Gordie Howe. So Scoop really is like the guy in this.
Yeah.
So just check out the story completely. And I think you'll like it. I know a lot of people don't really, it's funny how, many years ago it was now. It's kind of crazy. 31 years ago. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who don't have any idea who this, or never would have seen this guy play.
Right.
I grew up as a kid. I was a Bernie Parent fan, of course, but I was really young when Bernie Parent went down. I was like 8 years old when Bernie Parent stopped playing. And so was Lindbergh. Pelle Lindbergh was a Bernie Parent fan as well. That's why Pelle has the mask, which
Here's the funny thing about Bernie Parent. And this is no slight to Lindbergh because he just didn't get to play long enough. He was the goalie I hated the most.
Oh, Bernie?
Yeah, Bernie I hated the most because he was really, when everything was going right and the Flyers were playing right, even if they slipped up, even if he only faced 10 shots, he was stopping them. And
yeah.
He was impossible. And that was the thing about him. So, he's just like,
really
if you
true. There were some great epic playoff rounds between the Rangers and the Flyers back then.
You got past your team getting beat up, you still had to get past Bernie Parent. That was the problem.
Yeah, right. And this is the Bernie mask. The Bernie mask, of course, which Pelle then had, he had used the same exact mask, and then I got a mask made by the same people who made that mask a little while ago for my
which isn't exactly a great idea since Bernie Parent's career ended because he got sticked in the eye.
Not even this. Yeah, right. And then this kind of mask is no, and I don't wear it. I've only worn this mask a few times actually playing because it's not the safest thing in the world, but it's fun.
Bernie Parent was the most unpopular opposing goaltender in Buffalo because obviously he beat the Sabres, stoned them in 1975 for the Stanley Cup, and of course he was with the Leafs. He was with the Flyers, was traded to the Leafs, and then was traded back to the Flyers.
Yep.
Go ahead, Russ.
I was going to say, see, it's funny. I didn't hate Ron Hextall the same way because of his grandfather and how great he was for the Rangers. I disliked him in games, so it was funny one time up in the press box before Ron was ever GM, Dave Uncle, who we used to remember at games, and we just had Ron on our show. We did an AM show, and he introduces me to Ron. He goes, "Hey, Ron, this is the guy who used to boo you from the blue seats." And Ron loved that.
Yeah.
He loved playing in MSG. He loved the atmosphere, and I was going to own it. I wasn't going to lie about it.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
No, and that was the that Hextall came right after Lindbergh, and that was the time, and we all think of the Flyers having goalie issues now. That was the time when they had a and since Hextall, which we really Hextall sort of at the I guess mid 90s really was no longer around in Philly. Then the Flyers had their string of many goalies, like starting with Sean Burke and other goalies that came through the line.
The Roman Czechmanic era.
Yeah, the Roman Czechmanic era.
John Van Bees, but the funny thing is that it's partially their fault because some of the decisions that they made.
And there's no question about that. They had options, and they didn't pick the right. I mean, they didn't pick the right.
But they had guys. We kept hearing about Maxime Ouellet. We kept
They had these young stars, and they
just didn't develop. I mean, that happens too.
Yeah, it did happen. I mean, it's funny. I remember Bunny LaRocque playing for the Flyers. And at the time, I didn't think much of it. He still actually wore the old style mask, which was.
Now, when did he play for the Flyers?
It was really late in the game. I mean, you're talking. It was. I have to look it up, guys. But
I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up. And I never even thought of Bunny LaRocque, now until years later when I realized how old he must have been when I saw him playing for the Flyers. Like as a kid, I remember him playing for the Flyers. I'm going to say it was in the 80s. Like I think it was like.
Did he play that long? He may have.
He played for the Leafs in '81. I know that.
Yeah, no, and I think he
played for the Flyers the same year that he played for the Leafs, 82, 83, and he only played 2 games.
Yeah, but I remember him. Obviously he was there. He was their backup for quite a few games, and and I would always go down for warm-ups to the game. So yeah, and just seeing and I had no idea that Bunny LaRocque was as epic a goalie as he was, because I mean he went way back, way back, right? I mean, when was Bunny LaRocque's first season?
73, 74.
Yeah, so
he was the primary backup for Dryden for most of the Stanley Cup years.
Yeah,
right. That was sort of how he got popular. So or how you would most for sure. Gesundheit. All right, so so then Pelle Lindbergh's favorite player was Bernie, and when Pelle won the Vezina, he had there's a famous picture with Pelle and Bernie in the Vezina, and Bernie really took him under his wing. And that kind of style goaling is what I was as well. And I wore number 31 and still wear number 31 when I play. And my daughter, who's a soccer goalie, wears number 31. So there's all these connections with Pelle Lindbergh in our house still to this day. So it's it's really it's an interesting sad moment, but to recollect on for me. So anyway, I want to move. Let's talk. I have some other goalie things today since we're in the goalie frame of mind. Before we get into things, Corey Crawford right now. And you may not have known this, but in his last 6 games, he's 6-0. Mm-hmm. He's got a 1.0 goals against average and a .970 save percentage.
He stinks.
Yeah, Crawford is tearing it up right now.
Overrated.
Yeah, he's an average goalie.
It's so funny because Crawford has gotten people who've said that, right? Like that is
How many times have I defended Corey Crawford? It seems crazy that I've had to do that. And last night he looked fabulous. He did. I mean, he was making some tremendous saves.
Oh yeah, he's a heck of a goal, and he has his moments, but for the most part, he's good. I mean, it's really hard. You know what I think it is about Corey Crawford? He doesn't play a standard style, and I think it messes people up because he's got an oddballish style that makes him not look like he's always in control.
But his mental game got better. He did talk about the mental imaging like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
that's when he did sort of turn the corner.
Yeah, no, I think that is interesting, and you can see that in his game too. He never has gotten the respect from Team Canada. He's never really gotten. He's also
teams, but he's never thought of as the number 1 goalie.
Yeah, and of course he is in the era of Carey Price, but at the same time, it's
I mean, he was number 3 behind Price and behind Holtby for the World Cup. At least he was on it.
Yeah, he was on it.
No, he's on it, but I think Holtby had such a great year last year. Obviously, people are going to talk about Holtby being that good, but. I don't know. Holtby versus Crawford, I don't know. Like, to me, that's if I was to pick one or the other, I'm not sure who I would say has been the better goalie in their NHL career so far. I mean, Crawford's won a Stanley Cup, so I guess you got to go with him, or 2 Stanley Cups, right? So,
in that game, we have to say we may have seen the worst fight this year between Panarin and Upshaw.
Oh, I know. I have it on video.
Scotty Upshaw is not meant to fight.
No, not at all.
Did Panarin actually?
Here it is. I'll show you guys. I'll show it to you.
You need to see. It was okay, but
it was bizarre. Here we go. So, all right. Okay, let me pause for a second. Okay.
Was it a slap fight?
No.
Not quite a slap fight. Here we go. All right, so I'll bring this over here so you can see it. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. So, whoops, hold on. Go. It's just this
A lot of holding and tussling.
a lot of holding and tussling.
A lot of misses.
Yes.
A lot of misses.
Panarin just missing wildly there. And Upshaw like, okay, I threw a few punches, break this up.
Right.
It's not exactly Rocky Balboa versus Ivan Drago.
Yeah. No, you're exactly. I mean, and it's funny. Upshaw is still like hanging in there, though. Like that's something.
It's amazing he is hanging in there, but I have to tell you, watching that game, I wondered why Yakupov is nailed to the bench and not playing. Like he just, I think they cut him, sat him for that game, and I think he sat 3 in a row. Mike, is that right?
Yeah.
And I don't get it. They didn't have any offense. 0.
Yeah.
Well, could this be Hitch? I mean, we were saying Hitch.
This is Hitch. Oh, this is Hitch.
But then again, you have to. I mean, it has to be Yakupov has to be something to do with this.
Well, I mean, you're going to put him on the 4th line. How long is he going to score goals on the 4th line when the 4th line doesn't play a whole game for Hitch? It never has, and they're not scoring. Like this is a team. Again, the St. Louis Blues. This is a matchup where we could look at this matchup again in April. We could look at this matchup again in May in the playoffs, and it's going to turn out the same way every time. Chicago will beat them every time unless they make a change.
Yeah,
they have to do something.
And what have we been saying about the Blues? We know that they're loaded on defense. You've got a young guy in Parayko. You've got the top pairing of Pietrangelo and Bouwmeester. Shattenkirk is a UFA at the end of the year. They're probably not going to re-sign him. They're probably going to extend Parayko and give him big money. So, okay, if you need offense, why in the hell didn't you trade Shattenkirk?
Right.
Because you could have gotten something for him. You could have gotten some offense.
Yep.
Instead, you're trying these sort of hole-plugging maneuvers, like trading a draft pick for Yakupov, and then you don't give Yakupov the ice time to see if he can score for you. So this is like shooting yourself in the foot on the part of the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, it feels as if they have Yakupov there for when someone gets hurt, and when no one's hurt, they don't have a spot for him.
Right.
But they've faced so many injuries over their years that they're expecting, Schwartz or somebody's going to go down.
Right.
And then Yakupov's going to get his time. Right. That's what it feels like. So
they're almost treating Yakupov like they treated another former Oiler, Magnus Pajärvi, because they didn't, Hitchcock was not happy with Pajärvi in terms of his ability to play a two-way game.
Right.
And Yakupov he's
better than Pajärvi two-way. He is.
Right, he is, but maybe not good enough for Hitch. And if that's the case, if you'd rather play, Scotty Upshaw or, re-sign Scott Gomez like he did last year, I think it was, okay, then you're really not giving a guy like Yakupov a fair chance. And maybe this was a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say,
look, I think the Rangers would take Yakupov tomorrow. They'd pair him with Buchnevich and Peary, and there would be a lot of goal scoring happening, and they could get a decent player from the Rangers. I'm just
on both sides. There'd be a lot of goal scoring with Peary.
Yeah, well, but you know what? it would be okay. But I'm just saying, there's teams that would be interested in him, and again, I can't believe we have to sort of like wonder if he's ever going to play.
I know it really felt to me like a Carolina should have gotten him. That
really would have been a good location,
or New Jersey,
or Arizona,
or talked about New Jersey. There are teams that just really need that, where you think you could play a top 6 role for sure.
Right.
And,
continuing on with the goaltending thing, I have to bring this up because. Go ahead.
I got a couple more weird goaltending stats, but you go first.
Okay. Yeah, it has to be said. I saw Peter Budaj play for the Kings against the Leafs on Tuesday, and the Leafs were schooled by a veteran, more experienced team. But look at Budaj's stats. He's 7-3. His goals against is under 2, and he's got a save percentage of around .920. Now, I may be, and you may shoot this down right away, and we know that the evidence is there that Jonathan Quick is a great goaltender. But this is not the first time that when Quick has gone down. Ben Scrivens put up great stats with LA. So did Martin Jones for a limited window. Yeah. So did Jonas Enroth. You don't have to be a great goaltender to play with a team that is so good defensively as the LA Kings are. And I think people but people underestimated their ability to stay in the race while Quick was out, because right now Budaj is carrying the load
for the moment.
Yeah, no, I think it's perfect timing. I mean, he can probably carry it. If he can carry it for a couple months, which is all they need him to do, then you're all right. I mean, he's not going to carry the whole season, but he carries a couple months.
We really don't know. We have no idea when Quick will be back.
The thing, right? So we don't know, and I think that the Kings, they're all different. Scrivens, Jones, they all have their ability, and Jones I think has proven to be a top-notch goalie as it is, right? But you're right. You're right. I mean, you don't have to be a great goalie to play with the Kings, but you have to be a great goalie to make the Kings great. Put it that way. Like I think what's the difference is Quick. He will make all those same saves, but the other goalies are going to make, because the shots, he can see the shots, and the Kings let their goalies see the shots really well. That's one of the best things they do. But
they can tread water while he's out.
You can tread water for a while, and that's why they haven't made any super panic moves to get this, because they wanted to see. And Budaj has also shown in his career the ability to do this. He's the perfect kind of guy to come in and do this. He's like the Bunny LaRock of this era, sort of, in a way, because he's out there and he's a guy.
34 years old. He's not exactly a spring chicken, but yeah,
he's old, and but he's been around, and he's got experience. And another crazy goalie stat that I have for you guys is Sergei Bobrovsky. Okay, so Sergei Bobrovsky, after he let in 5 goals on opening night, and had troubles, numbers like, oh no, Bobrovsky. Since then, he's 6-2-1. He's got a 1.44 goals against average and a 958 save percentage. So in 9 games, this is why the Blue Jackets are. We talked about this. This is what was going to have to happen, right, for the Blue Jackets to be
Coach of the Year, John Tortorella.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. It's more than that. But Tortorella outcoached Randy Carlyle last night. Randy Carlyle is part of the reason the Anaheim Ducks can't score, because they, even with completely open ice in front of them, will play this pass system just to get it to one side of the ice or the other before they even go up the ice. And Tortorella, after a while, was just kind of like, okay, we'll just wait you out. We're not going to go after you and try and make a mistake, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for us to make a mistake so you can get in transition. They didn't do that. And Columbus does not have the same kind of roster that Anaheim does. They don't.
Yeah, but Russ, you do know that Anaheim is challenged when it comes to goal scoring. I mean,
but they shouldn't be. That's my point.
Look at their forwards. I mean, it's Getzlaf, it's Perry, it's Kessler, it's Silfverberg. There's maybe one other guy who I think is a pretty decent scorer, and then after that,
Rakell's got 6-7 goals. The system is definitely hurting them, and Carlisle is playing every game to tie or get into overtime, and we'll make the playoffs because we'll get a lot of points that way. But I don't know how far they're getting, because in overtime, they had no answer. They should never have played that game for overtime, knowing that once Columbus got 3-on-3 going, that team has too many guys that in 3-on-3 will kill you.
Yeah.
But this is Randy Carlisle's game. I don't like the coaching job he's doing for them.
I thought last night you saw with him and with St. Louis, I thought you saw 2 of the old style coaches not willing to make adjustments for the new style game, and
see that.
2 of the classic guys, 2 of the really, great, all Hall of Fame type coaches, but the game has maybe passed them by, and you're watching it happen in front of your eyes. I mean,
Gibson was playing a great game, but at the end of the day, some fan will probably say, "Oh, Gibson didn't do well because they lost 3-2 in overtime." It's like goalies in overtime just get swallowed up, right? I mean, it's not.
Yeah. Well, Gibson's a lot like Crawford in some ways. I feel like. I feel like he's got that similar thing where he doesn't look great all the time. Like he will look really off when he lets in goals because he's awkward the way, but he'll also play unbelievably at times. So I think Gibson's got the same thing going. My last goalie stat is Carey Price in his last 100 games is 74, 20, and 6. So it's 54 games over 500.
They should have kept Halak. Come on.
What?
They should have kept Halak.
I know. 938 save percentage in 100 games with a 1.82 goals against average. And 16.
I will say he was one of the goalies that I nailed as a prospect, and I did get to see him in his Calder Cup run in the AHL and was supremely impressed. So I'm not really surprised, but I may be surprised at that record. That record is just unbelievable in this era especially.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And someone just texted me this, too, that 20 years ago today, Felix Potvin fought Ron Hextall. I don't know if I have the video of that.
Felix's proudest moment as a pro.
Oh, I do. There is a video of this. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, it's on.
Oh, this is a good one. All right, wait a sec. Yep, sorry. I'm going to pause this. This is awesome. Okay, ready? Here we go. Put this over here.
You should have the Rocky music.
I know, really, it should, right? Okay, here we go. Share this here, and then put this here. This is like, sorry, it's so crazy. Here we go. Ready? Ron Hextall's racing down the ice.
Oh, yeah, he wants to fight.
Taking off his gloves.
In his Cooperalls.
Right.
The goalie didn't have Cooperalls, did they?
Yeah.
No, Hextall's, balding head there.
Look, because otherwise he should have the same sort of short outfit.
All the players have just stopped doing their thing and they're looking at it. It's so funny when you look at the background. The players they were all fighting, and now the players all just stopped and they're going to look at him.
You can't even see what's happening, though, like at times.
Yep. There you go. Gary Dornhofer in the background. Pretty funny. All right.
It's good stuff.
There you go. That's awesome.
I still like Dan Cloutier fights better, but Hextall was a good one.
Dan, I think the funniest thing was Dan Cloutier skating in front of the Islanders bench, challenging them all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Now, was that the same game? Was that the same game as the Ryan Hallwig, Chris Simon, or is that a different Islanders game?
I think it was different.
Okay, because if you ever talk about near-death experiences in hockey games, I don't know how Ryan Hallwig lived.
Yeah.
Because Chris Simon literally took a baseball swing and hit him on the forehead.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Hallwig was a guy who had a lot of guts, who really could skate well for the era, but he did take too many shots, and that really killed his career. He probably had a little offense in his game, and after that, he had no offense.
Yeah, well, didn't stop Cliff Fletcher from trading a draft pick for him. To me, he was one of the worst players I've ever seen.
Well, you saw him after like a lot of fights. Actually, his move was to run a guy into the boards all the time before you got called for it a lot.
That's what he did. He ran Simon into the boards.
Yeah.
He face planted Simon into the boards, and the first thing Simon did was turn around and pretend he was Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, that was his move. I mean, and that's why Simon did that. And Simon was crazy. He was legitimately crazy.
Yes, he was. David Desharnais is scratched tonight.
So what?
I believe he's gone pointless in 9 games, which, if you look at the Canadians
in Montreal, because Montreal fans have been calling for this to happen for a while.
I think Montreal built him up too much.
I always thought that too.
Yeah, the hype of him.
And they always played him. They played him way too much too.
Way too much ice time. Like if you want to use analytics on David Desharnais and see if his ice time is worth it, you'll find that it probably wasn't. He's a decent player. He is. But he's not, a kind of player that warranted the kind of ice time he seemed to get.
That's for sure. Ilya Kovalchuk. We'll look at the NHL options this summer.
Yeah.
All right. So
they're not going to be lining up.
Yeah, he'll be 34 years old, and I've seen highlights of him in the KHL. He's not the Kovalchuk that left.
No.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I also do think there will be 4 or 5 teams that'll talk to him.
Well, I mean,
power play, sure.
I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if one of them is the Maple Leafs.
Oh, for sure. There's no question that they'll be one of them.
Because of Lou Lamoriello, but I also think that you're looking at a team with Babcock that is very focused on speed and the lack thereof when it comes to Kovalchuk, I think probably will not make them really, really interested in him. But they'll give
you can have a rebirth there, it's actually not a bad situation for him to go to because he can play top 6 minutes there, perhaps. He can get some power play time. I also think he will look at New Jersey. He actually did really like, not only did he like Lou Lamoriello, he actually just really liked being a Devil in general. And
it's funny. If I were a GM thinking about signing him, I might pay more than other GMs, but I would want to have him have a pro day like they do for players, pre-NFL. And I would like to see what he looks like now, skating against some of my better guys. I want a couple of my defensemen to cover him. I'd like to see how he looks that way, and not a scrimmage, but just in, like a loose circumstance to see how he would look in this league before I gave him any money.
Make sure he hasn't imbibed or hasn't used or eaten too much borscht while he was over there, because
he doesn't really. He's not. I mean, I don't think he's going to worry about the money situation. I think it's going to be more about just playing.
Kovalchuk always worries about the money.
Okay. All right. I can. Yeah.
He's and this is the thing. He's the second highest paid, or after Datsuk, I believe, player in the KHL.
He's making a lot of money.
He's making $4.5 million in the KHL.
But that means he's not coming cheap. He will never ever come cheap.
Which means he's coming over here, Russ, to get the same deal that Radulov got. And I don't think that anybody is going to give him. Radulov is 27 or 28 years old. Kovalchuk would be 34. Nobody is giving Ilya Kovalchuk $5.5 million. No one.
Like, I'd like to know what Kovalchuk weighs, right? Because Radulov is a guy who's always in. Well, I mean, this is a problem with Kovalchuk. I mean, he's 6'3", but he's listed at 230. Is he still 230? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point.
These things matter now in the NHL.
Oh no, they matter a lot, and I think you're right. If you bring him, you have to bring him in. But if he looks good when you bring him in, then he might be $5 million player still for 1 year. If you do 1 year with him, I mean, he could still do that.
Yeah, 1 year.
It's only going to be a 1 year deal. So NBC Sportsnet has done something that we thought they should do, and they've actually done it. They have added the McDavid-Matthews game.
Yes, they did.
On November 29th. The Oilers and Leafs will be on U.S. national TV, 2 Canadian teams. We'll take it, and that's great. I mean, we've talked about that. It's something that they have not done, and it's a really good thing for them to do.
It's a really good thing, but the funny thing was, and I heard this on Toronto radio a couple weeks ago. The game that we talked about before, that Boston-Toronto game, the first it was a Saturday night game that NBCSN added after Matthews scored the 4 goals. The ratings came out. It was the lowest. It was rated lower than some sort of like pool on ESPN. It was like it did not get any kind of ratings whatsoever. So, I mean, yes, it's a good thing that they're going to broadcast McDavid versus Matthews, but it seems to me that the approach that NBC is taking towards hockey, those like 6 or 7 same teams. It's always Chicago, St. Louis.
Yeah, they like the regional action. They do.
The regional, they get their best ratings out of that, and the hockey fan who is interested in watching Matthews and McDavid are watching it on Game Center Live or the Center Ice package, and they probably won't get a big number, even though it's something that like all 3 of us would want to watch. And that's sad in a way, but I don't know how much of a rating, how much of a splash they're going to get out of that game.
If you ask Siri how much Kovalchuk weighs, she'll tell you 229 pounds. But what I found with players is if you look on, let's say, not IMDb, HockeyDB, and you look at their weights, that is like usually their baseline weight. And so I'm pretty sure he hasn't written down his weight in a couple of years.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they got that out of the last program that they got.
Yeah.
Yeah, you only look at IMDb for Roseanne Barr's weight there, Russ.
It's really funny. All right. We're at the quarterway point right now in the NHL, pretty much. This is pretty much the quarterway point. And the question was brought to my attention, and this is a good question. Who is the Calder? If the season were end today, who's the Calder winner, right? And it's a tough one.
It's not even the quarter. It's more like the 20% mark. It's like,
all right, so we're at the 20% mark. And, and it, now it is down to, I think, 3 players, but
it's not down to right now.
I think 3 players have stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are saying 4. All right. Because you can put Nylander in there as well. So 4, you've put Nylander in there, you've got 4.
I think he's a distant 4th, though. I do.
Yeah, I mean, Werenski, Matthews, and Laine are taking this over, right? So Werenski has 11 points in already for that team. It's phenomenal, right? That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Laine has 11 goals in 14 games, which is the exact amount of goals that Teemu Selanne had in 14 games as a rookie when he scored 76 goals in the NHL. That's pretty crazy. And of course, Matthews is doing what Matthews is doing. He's not going to score as much, but as Laine, but he's doing great stuff all over the ice. If Laine were to stay on pace, like, how many goals do you think Laine would need to score to guarantee himself the Calder? That's what I was asked.
I think he will need between 35 and 40.
If he gets the 35, you think he gets the Calder
I can't
regardless?
say that because right now I would vote it for Zach Werenski because I'm watching the job he is doing, and he is playing top minutes. He is playing top power play. He is creating for his teammates. It's a harder position.
Yes.
It's so much easier to give it to the goal scorer than to give it to a defenseman. It is.
Right.
In terms of the three players, the easiest position to play is the position that Laine is playing.
Correct.
I would put Werenski ahead of Matthews and Laine right now simply because, now he's a draft older, but that really doesn't matter in terms of rookie roles. He's playing fantastic for Columbus. He's carrying that team in some ways, and he's playing the blue line. I mean, this was my analysis of Gostisbehere last year. I mean, Gostisbehere is more of an offenseman than a defenseman. But
Werenski will be better than Gostisbehere, though, all around. And that's not to say, look, if Gostisbehere has a 45-point year and Werenski has a 35-point year, you'll take Werenski every day of the week. Right. Gostisbehere would have to score 60 points for you to say, okay, you know what, Gostisbehere is better.
No, and the funny thing is that Auston Matthews has got 1 point in his last 7 games, and he's still in the top 3.
Yeah.
So he's in a slump right now. He's had a lot of opportunities to score. He's going to start kicking it back into gear in terms of scoring fairly soon. I mean, because he's getting a lot of opportunities. Laine is not going to keep this pace up. I think he could easily score over 30 goals, maybe even up to 40. But he's playing with veterans, and he's in a scoring role, and that's all he's being told to do: go out and score, and that's great. But I think that unless he scores way above where expectations are, I don't think he's going to win the Calder.
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote that preseason story and put a list of 10 guys out, I had Werenski 9th because I'm like, I got to see how Tortorella uses him and see if he gets in the doghouse. And Tortorella's been great with him. And if he stays great with him, he's going to be right up there all year long. He really will be.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
And he's lucky in the sense that it's not all on him. They do have Seth Jones, even though he's hurt right now. They do have Ryan Murray. They do have Jack Johnson and David Savard. Their defense is deep. So he's justifiably playing first pair minutes, but it's not like he has to play 28 minutes and carry the ball all the time.
No, you're right. And that's, I mean, they, like I said before going into the season, that this would be one of those things that I thought Werenski would be their best defenseman. I was told that he was their best defenseman by people around the team. He has been their best defenseman. He's been their best player, probably. I
mean, for all the people that love Seth Jones, which I'm included, Zach Werenski will be better, and he'll be better because he will produce more offense than Seth Jones will.
And I must return to X's wackiest blog predictions because number 13 on that prediction list was Werenski would win the Calder over Matthews and Laine, if you remember right. So that's the story. I might get one of them right.
Yeah, you might. It's not that wacky. I mean,
at the time, you guys thought it was.
He's a point a game. He won that game last night. I'm trying to find out. I shouldn't have to search this hard how many minutes he's playing, but yeah, I do.
Just go to the NHL.com website.
Yeah.
And it'll take you like 15 minutes to unfreeze it and get the stats.
I know. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, yes, I mean, and so who's the MVP in the league right now? We're not at the quarterway mark yet completely, but who is the MVP in this league? That's a really hard one for me to do right now.
I don't know. I'm going to say, I'm looking it up. Werenski lately is playing anywhere from 18 to 23 minutes, but really like 21 and change is what he's playing for a rookie. That's insane. Anyhow.
Oh yeah.
I would say that the MVP right now is Carey Price, because that team last year was crap without him. Mm-hmm. And this year, and I know they made some additions, but this year they're one of the best teams in the league, and it's because of Carey Price. So
especially, we talked about yesterday all the shots they're giving up.
Yeah, I think it's Carey Price.
I'd give McDavid his due. He'd be one of the nominees.
Well, I think Anisimov has to be in there. I mean, he's been killing it.
That's why we don't do the heart after 15.
No, games. I know, but to this
Sidney
point.
Crosby with 8 goals in 6 games going into last
I do want to bring up a point because there was some talk the other day. I forget where I was hearing it about Crosby versus Connor McDavid, right?
That
And
would
they're
be
like,
my
well,
blog
give it a few years and McDavid will be better than Crosby. And I'm thinking, I don't know if there ever will be a day where McDavid's better than Crosby unless Crosby plays till he's 40. I mean, I think.
Yeah. Sorry.
From a talent stand, I didn't catch the joke because I was too much.
Well, no, the joke is that was my blog yesterday. Can McDavid be better than Crosby?
Okay.
On this excellent website I know called Hockey Buzz.
Yeah, I read it
Sorry,
somewhere.
I was busy with other stuff yesterday.
All right.
But I will just say, I don't think McDavid will have the same career Crosby will. I don't think they're the same players. I don't think McDavid's better. I do not.
No, it's interesting. And yet, on my blog, 2,700 people voted on that question. Can McDavid be better than Crosby? That was the question.
Yeah, for maybe the last 3 years of Crosby's career, 4 years, sure.
Yeah, I guess it's a poorly worded question. But
No, it's not. People brought it up the same way. I'm not picking on the wording at all. But if I'm just going to look at it like from a production standpoint and from what they have as tools, I still think Crosby is the better hockey player.
right. Well, 77% of the people think McDavid can be better than Crosby.
Well, because they hate Crosby.
I think it's this. I think what people are not, and it's easy to ignore this because you don't know how a player is going to evolve. Crosby now is not the same player that Crosby was in 2007. I mean,
No.
he got pushed around for early in his career, but he always had that fight. But the next year he would come back and he would be a better face-off guy. The next year he'd come back and he'd be a better defensive player. Now he's a nightmare to play against. But the thing is with McDavid right now McDavid is pure speed, skill, and potential.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see in that game against Toronto that an annoying player like Kadri got under his skin. He's a bigger, he's a more experienced player, a stronger player, and he pushed him around a bit. In 3 years, if they match up, McDavid could kick his ass. I mean, it's very, very easy that McDavid will put on weight, will be just as speedy, but will be stronger, and will evolve as a player. So, I mean, if you take that into consideration, I think it's a possibility that McDavid is going to be as good or better than Crosby. But if he stays the same type of player he is right now and is sort of, I mean, he's good. He's, positionally, he's great. He's got great reaction time. But if he isn't more of a two-way player, then Crosby will probably be looked upon as being a better player overall.
Okay, but here's the thing. Crosby, in four of his first 5 years, had 100 points or more.
Right.
So tell me when McDavid gets 100 points for the first time, and that's when I'll start to look to compare him.
That's a legitimate thing.
He had 120 points in his second year. Now, technically, this is the second year of Connor McDavid. Is Connor McDavid going to get 120 points? No, he's not.
But would you say that the league is the same as it was in 2007?
I think it's a little more defensive, so I'll cut it down to 100. Is Connor McDavid going to get 100 points this year?
He could. I mean, I don't know if he will, but he could.
But you hesitated, so that's my point.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it, Russ.
No.
I think
I'm not picking on you, but I'm just saying when you're processing it and you realize what you're putting, it's easy to say right now when we're watching this kid, hey, he's going to be better than him.
Well, who had more talent in their second year to play with? That's a good question, right? Because it's pretty close, right?
It's pretty close. I think it's pretty comparable, actually.
Yeah,
and that's why I went to the second year. I ignored the first year because McDavid got injured, whatever. And these were non-concussion years as far as the NHL for Crosby. And so, because again, people always forget he had concussions before he got to the NHL.
Yeah.
He did. And so, yeah, I just don't think he's getting 100 points this year. And if he doesn't get 100 points, I don't know how I'm comparing him.
That's true. And in his second year, Crosby went, to the Stanley Cup Finals? Or no, did he get pretty close? Or was it the third year he went to Stanley Cup Finals?
Third year, I think.
Third year, I think you're right, yeah. But that, is McDavid going to go next year? That's
McDavid's got 17 points in 14 games. He'll probably get, at this pace, 88 points.
Yeah.
90 points.
Yep, that's probably true. So there's 10 games on tap for tonight. And I can't remember a night when there were 10 less interesting games on tap for. I'm just throwing this out there. Like I was trying to what's the big games tonight? What's the really fun ones to watch? All right, so start off with the Blue Jackets and the Bruins. There's no history there at all between those two teams. The Wild and the Penguins. Not really. The Ducks and the Hurricanes. The Canucks and the Red Wings, the Islanders and the Lightning. I guess that's
the game.
Maybe because the Islanders have to win, but the Lightning are quietly 7-5-1. You know, they're only one game over 500, as good as everybody thinks they should be. The Sharks and the Panthers. I guess the Blues and the Predators. That's a good rivalry.
It's a snooze fest.
The Stars and the Flames. Nope. And then the Jets and the Coyotes, which is, you know,
That
beyond,
I might watch.
yeah, beyond being the fact that it's the Coyotes versus the Jets versus the old Jets. I can't think of any reason.
But I might watch that game because there really is a lot of young talent on.
A lot of young talent in the game. Yeah, maybe that's the best one. All right, so that's 9 p.m. tonight. So
I think that's the highlight game. I think the Islander game has intrigue as well because now the Islanders won the last one, right? So we'll see if they can continue because I think there's still a Jack Capuano to watch, and we'll see.
And the Kings and the Canadians, but it always is interesting. Okay, I guess, but.
So will they have a video presentation for Peter Budaj for his return to Montreal?
Yeah, right.
Couple injury things that popped up here that Jannik Hansen for the Canucks out 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured rib. He has not played since that Morgan Riley hit last Saturday at center ice. So obviously the injury came from the hit. It will make that game when Vancouver and Toronto play. I think it's later this month. Rather interesting. I think the over-under will be about 120 penalty minutes because, you know, you've got Eric Branson threatening the death of Matt Martin and probably everybody targeting Nazem Kadri from Alex Burrows to whoever. So that one will be interesting. The other one, I think the Buffalo Sabres should hire a witch doctor because right now they've lost Eichel, Kane is on the verge of coming back. Bogosian. O'Reilly is got a groin injury just as Kane is coming back, so no gain there. And now today it was announced that Tyler Ennis will be out for, quote, several weeks after having surgery for his groin. It's a miracle that this team is 500.
But they're not 500 because I just looked at it, and I want to know how many losses or overtime wins and losses do you have to do until you're not 500? They're like 5-3.
5-5-3 or 5-5-4. Yeah, well, no, but
that's not 500 anymore.
But the way the NHL is, those 4 or those 3, they got points in. So
I know, but that's an NHL 500. I no longer count that as 500. I don't know how Eck feels about it. It is still math.
But I'm with you 100%. I think that's not 500 at all.
Yeah.
But the coaches union calls it 500, so
no, they want to, of course. You know that's like, you know, everybody's.
Look, I'll be honest. To the fan, it seems okay because it's like, hey, look, I mean, they got 13 points. They're great.
Got a point. Yep.
Got a point. You gave up a point, but you got a point.
Dan Bilesma thinks it's 500, so I'm going with that.
Well, they're going to think it's 500, right? All right, NHL lottery simulator time.
Wait! I got one thing to mention.
Sorry, I didn't even know what to say.
I'm surprised you didn't mention it, but. Tomorrow night in warm-ups for the Toronto-Philly game, all the Flyers players will wear number 88 jerseys.
Really?
Bill Meltzer just good old Bill. And I think that's cool. I was one who always supported Lindros for the Hall of Fame, and I'm glad he got in. Nobody hated him more than me in 95, 6, and 7. Right. But
that is a big deal for the Flyers to do that.
Totally deserving.
And a big deal given the history of this team.
Oh, yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and you know that's a nice touch because obviously he played for both teams, even though he played for the Leafs late in his career when he was a shadow of his former self. But I think that's a nice touch.
We got to give that to Paul Holmgren too, because Lindros talked about it this morning on Hockey Central, and it's true. Paul Holmgren really mended that fence, and Paul Holmgren, the hockey persona of Paul Holmgren is so much different than the actual guy.
Oh yeah, totally different. Couldn't be any different. He's quiet. He's goofy. He's funny. He's funny in a really dry way.
He is.
But when he laughs, he really laughs at something. He thinks if he's very funny, if you get him laughing, he's got a good sense of humor. But he's not a tough guy at all. No.
Two things stuck out to me about Holmgren. One time on the candy line, he filled his M&M cup in a big cup, and he saw that I was waiting. like he's just filling up. He looks at me, he goes, "Why go small?" And I'm like, that was one thing. And then, and then the other thing that drew so much attention, I didn't even think of it, was the one day the Flyers had that anniversary cake, and I took a picture of the cake, and people like Ranger fans are like, "How could you eat that cake?" I'm like, Paul Holmgren is over there with a knife asking me if I want a piece of cake. I took the cake.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't take the cake, you would have been taking the knife somewhere in the body.
Right.
He's a Minnesota guy, obviously.
Yeah.
But we did a really good Flyer Buzz TV interview with him way back when in my car, and he's a funny guy. He's got a funny story to him, and and that's funny. I saw him at the World Cup of Hockey when I went to the Team USA practice, and I was. The USA had just lost to Team Europe. There's a lot of angry people going on and a lot of messed up stuff going on. And it was just like, that was the only time I've ever felt like I couldn't talk to him. Like I looked at him and there was smoke coming out of his ears. And I was going to say, "Hey, Paul, I was going to see you up here in Toronto." And I just stayed away from him.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he's completely the opposite of that. It's a very good point. All right, let's go to the NHL last draft flyer simulator. I took a lot of heat for this yesterday, so I'm sorry. I apologize.
Hey, that was your surprise ending.
That was my surprise ending. I think the Flyers are where.
We were not complicit with that.
Yes.
We didn't do nothing. We have
nothing to do with that, of course. I tried to get you guys
possible deniability, right?
It's incredible to think that the day before the Flyers all donned number 88, Donald Trump and Obama would meet in the White House. I mean, come on, let's talk about like how crazy things are. All right, ready? Here's the all right, the NHL Draft Flyer Simulator. Here we go. The winner is the Dallas Stars. Then the Hurricanes, and then the Canucks. All right, so there you go. I forgot you could have picked 3 winners on this thing. So the Dallas Stars get the first pick overall.
Yeah, no question they go Patrick. It's not even. I mean, I know that they need a defenseman, but they have defensemen coming. It's funny. They need both. That team, because of injuries, still needs both.
It's weird because when teams get better, you always kind of tend to think that their end game is they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. They keep getting better and better and better. But then teams sometimes just get better to a point where they're really good, but then they start getting worse and worse and worse. That's what it feels like with the Stars. You just kept thinking, the Stars are getting they won the division. Now they won a playoff round. Now they're going to do this. They're going to move forward. And Just came through that the NHL has fined Ekman Larsson for diving/embellishment. Let's see, he's been fined $2,000, which is
I think that's the second.
That's the second if you're keeping track at home. There's a whole, and these are also there's head coach fines too, right? Well, coach and player. So the player and the coach get it too, correct?
That's the third. I think that's the third then, because
right.
Like the first two, it's like the first one's like a warning. The second one is a fine to the player. The third one is a fine to the player and the coach. I think
this is just a second. I don't think the head coach. I
think there's a warning one before. I'll check it out, but I think there's a warning one before they. They're set.
The first one is a warning, right? But then the second one is
just the player gets fined.
Actually, I think it's the fifth one that the coach gets fined. So this is the second.
This is how you know players make too much money, because back in the day, diving was an art form in the NHL like 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago. And so many guys did it. If they got fined $2,000 a time, they would be pretty hurting.
But the thing is, Russ, is that you look and believe me, I've become an expert on Nazem Kadri diving because he does it so often. He's not good at it.
You all need a specialty, Mike.
He's not good at it. It's very painfully apparent when he's diving. He's very good at drawing penalties, but he's not convincing. Maybe it's like something in my mind. I know he's diving, and man, that happened in that Edmonton game. He got tripped by Zach Kassian. He actually got tripped, but they gave him the 2 minutes for embellishment. Why? Because it's in his character. They know that he does it. So 9 times out of 10, he's diving. So the one time he doesn't dive, he's still going to get the penalty.
Did you see the one? What's weird? There's embellishment for diving. Why is there not embellishment for high sticking? Like that to me is something that we've seen a lot of in the NHL lately.
Yeah, when you do the fake face,
Like that should be like there was one the other night with the Red Wings Flyers where I think it was DeKaiser. Just like he took a high stick, it hit him on the shoulder. It didn't even come close to his head. Hits him on the shoulder, and a second later he throws his head back and gets he gets the high sticking. That to me is like as bad as just diving. So why don't we have an embellishment for high sticking?
They should do that. They should have like a training session. Teams should where they teach them how to look best on camera when that happens because you get a power play.
They probably do. I mean,
honestly, I mean the way that some of these players react when they get stuck in the face or close to the face. It's like I expect like when they reveal their face that the eyeball is hanging out. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying? It's like you got this little nick on your cheek.
I think the past tense of high stick is high sticked, not high stuck. Just saying, like that's pretty interesting. I like that.
Who's the best diver though in the NHL right now?
Right now, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, because like Marchand's known for it, Crosby's known for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good ones. And the Malkin's actually very good at it.
Yeah, Mike Ribeiro.
Patrick Kane.
I think the bigger guys are the ones who are always surprising me. Like like Malkin, who like if he wants to, you can't pull him down. If he wants to go through, you're not gonna be able to pull him down.
Yes.
Yeah. So you see that all the time. But anyway. We'll be back again tomorrow, guys. Enjoy the games tonight. I'm sorry I said they weren't all that interesting. There are probably good games and fun games that are interesting to everybody out there. It just doesn't seem like there's like a real bellwether game tonight. But anyway, remember that the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll talk to you soon.